Good morning. Happy Friday. What a week. What a week. Oh, man. I just woke up. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm just yawning. All right. It is Friday, September 12th, 2025. It is 9 o'clock. The market's going to open soon. And yeah, I'd like to go over what happened. I didn't record anything yesterday because everything was kind of in the process of moving. It just would have been a repeat of what I said on Wednesday and Tuesday and Monday. But now we're actually in the thick of it. So, last we left off, we were talking about this. It was starting to peak over this section right here. And this was the change of character that we were looking for. At this point, we've got it, you know. And one of the things that I mentioned in the last video is that it needs to come over, it needs to go above it like this, and it needs to hook. Meaning that it just needs to tap back into there, okay? And it semi did that right over here. This was a semi, tap back, which is cool, right? So that's a good thing. Excuse me. Which just means to me that we've got a little bit more power. Now, the one thing that we were looking for was for it to move up to the 50% range. And at this point, because we hit right over here, this is now taken out. So that ended up working out. We've got two more here, 1, 2, that need to be taken out. And now let's talk about the characteristics of range plays. So we are talking about this being the bottom of the range here, like right around here. This is the bottom of the range, okay? And we're gonna consider this part here manipulation. So that means that this whole section here is worth the trade, okay? Now, if we look at what happens around the 50% line all the time, you'll see like this characteristic that happens around the 50% line. We are now basically in the middle. Okay, this is kind of the same scenario that we had before when we were actually looking at between ranges, right? The thing is that we have come back into the range and now we've got a more bullish sentiment, meaning the change of character is no longer a downtrend. We are no longer in a downtrend. That doesn't mean that we can't go down. It just means that we've changed our character a little bit. Okay? So, and by that, I mean, you could see it. We were, one thing that I was drawing here a lot was this right here, right? And this is usually where the change of character kind of comes in, right? This is what it looks like, right? This is the possible what it looks like. So from here, we can't really tell if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down, right? So, but if it goes up, that is 100% a change of character. If it goes down, then it's just continuation going down. And if you were to look at what we have here, we have this kind of like buildup, this downtrend. This is obviously a downtrend. So let me just pull it out like that. Let me just scribble the hell out of this downtrend, right? And then we've got this range that starts right over here. This is the range right there. Okay, I'll pull this down over here and you can see it. Now again, when I draw a line like this, what I'm not doing is I'm not giving you all of the turbulence that's in between that makes up this line. Okay, I am basically just giving you a flat line, which makes it look like, it just went straight down, but it didn't. So here it is right here, and we are poking over. Actually, I'm sorry. This is wrong. Let me make it a little bit more accurate. Right. This was the range right over here that we were looking at. This is it, and we considered this part manipulation. Okay. So let me color that out there just like that, and let me color this out. This is the downtrend, right? Let me color this out here. This is the group here, and they're just channels. Right? So now we are starting to poke out of this, meaning that we've got the change of character. So we are now kind of in a bullish sentiment, right? Right? Now, this goes along with the idea of buying when there is fear in the market. A lot of people were wiped out in this zone. A lot of people, because what they did was they said, "Oh, we're going a lot lower," and they didn't consider the manipulation at all, and they got liquidated. Like there were like millions of liquidations because they caught you, right? The idea is that you buy low, right, and sell high. That's how you make money in this market, right? So if that's the case, then that means that as this starts to come up here, you are selling, right? There's no idea that, this is just going to continue to rip up this way, especially the way that ranges work. It still has to play the range until it's done. So a range basically has that bouncing around mechanism with two areas of manipulation usually, and then what it does is it continues out from there, or it'll go down there. But it still needs time in this area. It needs time. And during that time, you can really take advantage of the idea of, buying low and selling high, right? Selling high, buying low and selling high. Or you can, short the top all the time. So this is how you're going to kind of like play this. So at this moment, because we are at this 50% line, I am looking at changing my idea a little bit. Now, mind you, I am in a long, and I've taken some good profit, and I expect to hit up here, and I do expect to hit over here. But at this moment, I am now thinking, if we go lower, I'm going to add to my long, right? And if we go higher, I'm going to start to short things. That's just the way it has to be, right? Until it's, it shows otherwise. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. What I'd like to do is I would like to go take a look at Ethereum for a second. So here's Ethereum. And Ethereum, I said, I think on Wednesday, that Ethereum was feeling really weak. But it really was taking a break from this real nice bullish move that it made, right? And especially this bullish move right here. So we are now at the middle of the range, right there. We were looking for that. And I feel at this point, what's happening is the Ethereum dominance is starting to pick up. And one thing I was saying was that it'll either bounce at this line or it'll come and tap down here. And turns out it kind of like it's kind of like hanging out like right in between. So the idea was there, maybe the marks weren't right, but it does feel like this is starting to change direction now. And that's important to know, because what's going to happen is Ethereum might just take off without Bitcoin. And if you look at it here, here's the Bitcoin dominance. And I was saying on Wednesday as well, is that we need to get out of the mud here. And I believe that we're going to hit over here, right? So that's what I'm looking for. And it's starting to feel like that. You could start to get a sense of that in Ethereum, in the structure that it's making. First of all, we didn't really get a pullback at the 50% line. That's not really a pullback at all. And it looks like it's starting to build some support at the 50% line. Whereas if we go take a look over at Bitcoin, Bitcoin actually bounced at the 50% line. And if I were to measure down below here, it's almost about a 1% drop. And that's not a lot. It definitely is an opportunity to take a 1% short, but everything's starting to feel like it's building. There's a lot of pressure building upwards, which is good, because I'm looking for this to get over this line, come over here to this section, wipe this out over here, right? And then pop up here and wipe this out over here. So I'm looking for that. And it feels like it's starting to do that. But Ethereum, on the other hand, is starting to feel, even though it felt weak down here, it was actually pretty strong. Like, these dips weren't too hard. Like usually the dips end up becoming like really kind of crazy wicks that go through. And this wasn't very much of a crazy wick. So Ethereum is starting to feel like it's got some, it's starting to pick up some momentum. The other thing is, if we were going by candles, this is a pattern that a lot of people know. This is a cup and handle. And usually a cup and handle just starts, it makes this kind of like round bottom, right? Then it makes the handle. Here's the handle. And then it'll continue off in that way. So this is starting to feel super, super strong to me. And I am in a long. I was in a long here. And I added to my long again over here. And, I played this section out pretty well. What I'm looking for is I am looking for a possible short opportunity up here somewhere. In fact, I think it's going to be a little bit like right over here. But I might not take it. The reason why is because Ethereum dominance is starting to look like there's going to be a hell of a ride if this pops up. So on the other hand, if that's the case, then shorting Bitcoin might be more worth it. Because if the strength is falling on Ethereum, right, this could possibly come up here and then pop over here. And then while Ethereum is running up even more past its all-time high, Bitcoin can come back down and revisit this in a healthy manner. Maybe even come and tap this again. As Ethereum is starting to do its thing. We do not have to break this all-time high just because Ethereum is running. I think it's Ethereum show going forward. Meaning, like, if Bitcoin is looking like this, Ethereum is looking like this. That being the show. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Now, there's a couple of other things that I just wanted to kind of like mention, okay? And it really comes back down to the idea of buy in fear, right? Buy in fear and sell in greed. This is important for you to get this concept. Usually down here, everyone's scared. I'm going to lose money. I'm going to lose money. I know where the market is going. The market's going down. It's obvious that the market's going down. Usually what happens is when it's obvious in the chart and people who don't have experience understanding, how manipulation works, how, liquidity grabs work or anything like that. Usually when everyone starts seeing things, it's time to switch the chart around, right? Because it's really not about you making money. It's about other people making money. And if they can sway the chart in any which way, they're going to do it, right? But you have a tendency of when it's getting low, yeah, we're going to zero. That's the tendency right there. And because you think it's going to zero, you miss opportunities like this. Okay, that same idea happens when we get up here. We are going to the moon. So what happens is you end up losing out on the opportunity of selling this area because you think we're going to keep on going. So there is a little bit of a hack that goes along with this. And the hack is really simple. Take some profit. Leave a little bit in there if you want to. If you feel the need that we're going to go higher and you've got $100 sitting in this trade, well, take $50 of it, okay? And leave $50 in there. Or take $75 out of it and leave $25 in there, right? Because if you were to come lower, then you will be able to take that money and throw it back in. Because eventually it will break this. Eventually it will. Okay? So this is part of the planning part of it. So at this point, once we get past this 50% line, my idea will shift a little bit. And I will look at Which one is weaker and stronger? Is Bitcoin dominance looking like it's going to bounce? Should I short that and take that for a moment? And I mean like only for a moment. Like here. That would be my short. It's not, I'm going to take this because we're going all the way to zero. No. It's just an opportunity. It's just a moment. Right? So you plan for that. So, yeah. Now, let's go take a look. Let's go take a look at some of these other ranges that were played out already, right? And you can see, like, let's just examine this one, for example. Okay? Short, short, short. And each time that there was a short, there was just a moment of opportunity. Meaning this moment of opportunity was this whole span here, right? This moment of opportunity was shifted this whole span over here. This moment of opportunity was only to here. And this is the golden pocket, and the 50% line. Okay? Now notice how it's working on the 50% line. See? Like here we broke through, we came up, we went like this, and we started going down. But see here, like we grabbed some support. Look, it popped down to the golden pocket, then it went to the other side. It came back over to this golden pocket. It bounced on the golden pocket, and then it ripped up like that. Okay? Now, keep that in mind, how that just played out. Let's go take a look at this other area right over here. Okay? We're looking at the 50% line. All right? So you see this 50% line? Look, we came up. Look, it came right over, went through it, right? Right? It bounced, right? Came over, down, and look what happened. We got some support here, and boom, we got it. So the idea is, once we start to get support on this 50% line, this area is going to be tapped. It's going to be tapped. Okay? Most likely. Let's just say that. Okay? Again, let's take a look at this one again. This is the 50% line, right? As soon as it got support, look, as soon as it got support, it came to the top of the range. Okay? There are exceptions. This was just like a manipulation move, right? But here we go. Look, it found support, touched here. Look at that. Right? And then we came back over here. So if that's the case, if that's the characteristics of a 50% line, here we are right over here. You can see that we are starting to get to that 50% line. So that's what I'm looking for. All right. There is really no such thing as, buy low and sell high. Right? Because if the idea here worked for this, we should have bought when it was way down here. Buy low. We should be selling at this point, right? Sell high. The problem is that we're not going back down here. So the real idea is to buy high, sell higher. And if you feel like, oh my gosh, I lost, I sold, and I missed this huge move, I can't believe it, I lost out on the opportunity, I will never have that again. How many times did you have an opportunity to long here? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 5, 6. How many times did it hit in this row? Look. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2. I'll say 3, 4. 3, 4. 1. Nope. 1, 2. Right? How about shorting? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. If you think this is going to break up here and not come back and touch this area, or not come back and hit this, you're not paying attention to the way these charts are moving. They always revisit where they came from. So don't think that you're losing an opportunity of a lifetime, because you're not. Every single one of these bounce over and over again. If you like the area that I longed, then look to long in my area in the future. If you like the area that I shorted, look to short in my area in the future. Okay, guys, that's about it. The weekend's coming. Right now, I'm riding out my longs a little bit. I might be shorting over here on Bitcoin. I do feel like we have to kind of like snippet this and hook over here. But in hooking, we might actually pop back over here and then hook and then do something like that. So if I were to measure it out, let me see if it's worth it. Let me measure it out from here to here. Yeah, it's 2.5% move, right? I may end up just doing that and maybe even possibly throwing some more of my profit right over here, you know, for a long. So maybe I'll short, take some profit, throw it into a long. Like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to play it out yet. I need this to get a little bit higher. But on the other hand, Ethereum, I am looking for it to come up here. And I'm going to check exactly, like, I'm not even going to play with this. I'm going to see if it's worth shorting over here. Because if it is worth shorting, like I start to see some kind of resistance in this area, I might even take a swing for it. I'm looking at maybe a 6% move back down to the golden pocket area. So that to me is a lot more worth it, right? Right now, shorting doesn't really work for me because there's about almost a 9% move going up. So that's where I'm at right now. Oh, last thing, let's just double check what's going on in the S&P 500. Yes, we actually did hit. We hit the spot that I was looking for. This is feeling quite bullish if you're asking me, man. Like there's this trend line that's forming here, right? So the trend lines work like this. You get momentum, right? It touches, and then the next peak is a little bit higher, right? And then the next peak is a little bit higher. And then what happens is we start to lose velocity and volume. And usually the next peak is a little bit lower than where the top was. It's this point right here that this trend line might break for it to come and do this. And this is 1, 2, 3 points right there. If you were to look at the S&P 500, what's happening right here, like this trend line, let me see here. This trend line right here, I don't feel like we're quite out of it. See, this is hump number 1. This is hump number 2. So we probably got one more hump to come around, and then we'll lose velocity, break through, and yeah, we come back down to this bottom of this range here, you know? So maybe that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And, oh, I wanted to show you this, and then we'll leave it this. Check this out. Remember that bullhorn pattern? Let me darken this in. Look at that. Look at that. Bullish. Bullish. I think it's got a little bit more to go. And again, it needs to take out this section right over here. Doot, doot, right over here, which makes it right over here. All right, guys, listen, have a good weekend. I'm not going to be trading this weekend. I am going to be concentrating on other things. I hope you guys have a good one, and I will talk to you on Monday. Bye, guys.